vote for her, not against her. All right, join me in welcoming my great friend, the next President of the United States, Nikki Haley.
Great to be back, and I'll tell you, isn't it a great day in South Carolina? I want to thank my good friend Nathan Valentine. I want to thank Ralph Norman for being here. You know, you look at what's happening in the country. This really is an important time. It's almost a year since I announced. There were 14 people in the race. We got rid of a dozen of the fellas. I just got one more fella I got to catch up to. And they didn't give us a chance, and we started in Iowa, we had 2%, we finished with 20%. Then we went to New Hampshire, and we got 43% of the vote. And think about it, the Republican incumbent, Trump, didn't get 43% of the vote. That says a lot. But then he gets on stage that night and throws a total temper tantrum. Did y'all see it? All he did was talk about revenge. Then the next day he said anybody that supports Nikki Haley will be barred permanently from MAGA. Yay! Now, if you're running for president, it's a story of addition. We're trying to get as many people as we can, not push people out of a club. Then he goes the next day and tries to get the RNC to name him the presumptive nominee. We don't do coronations in America. We want people to be able to vote. South Carolina deserves the ability to vote. Then he goes and loses a court case. And he goes on another rant. And that time he's talking about what a victim he is. What bothers me about all of this, whether it was the night of New Hampshire, whether it was after that court case, he never once talked about the American people. He never once talked about the fact that we're $34 trillion in debt. He never once talked about the fact that only 31% of 8th graders in our country are proficient in reading. He never once talked about this completely open border that's out of control. He never once talked about the lawlessness in our cities. He never once talked about the wars around the world. All he did was talk about himself. And that's the problem. And then the next couple of days after that, our campaign contributions came out. And he spends $50 million of campaign contributions on his personal court cases. 50 million. You've got the RNC that's basically bankrupt, and he wants to tell us we're going to defeat Joe Biden? How?
By voting for you.
So you look at all of that, and none of it makes sense what's happening. And then a couple of days ago, Republicans had major losses. Trump lost immunity for all these court cases that have come up. He's already said he's going to spend more time in a courtroom than he is on the campaign trail. Republicans lost the vote on the border. They lost the vote on Israel. The Republican Party chair lost her job. Trump had his fingerprints in all of that. And you know what that is? I've always spoken to you in hard truths, and I'm going to do that with you today. I voted for Donald Trump twice. I was proud to serve America in his administration. But every single time, chaos follows him. And we feel it. And the American people can't afford a country in disarray and a world on fire and go through 4 more years of chaos. We won't survive it. The other thing I'll tell you is, after the last couple of days, what have we seen? Joe Biden will not be the nominee. He's not. The Democrats know this. What I will tell you is there will be a female president of the United States.
Nikki!
The hard truth is it's either going to be me or Kamala Harris. And you look at any one of those general election polls, any one of them, Donald Trump doesn't defeat Biden, period. And if there's a younger Democrat, he's definitely not going to defeat Biden. He's down by 5, he's down by 7, he's down by 9. On a good day, it's margin of error, which means another nail biter of an election. I'm in every one of those same general election polls, and I defeat Joe Biden by 17 points. Do you know what that means? That's bigger than the presidency. That's House, that's Senate, that's governorships, that's school boards. But you win by double digits. That's a mandate going into D.C. to stop the wasteful spending and get our economy back on track. That's a mandate to get our kids reading again and go back to the basics in education. That's a mandate to secure our borders, no more excuses. That's a mandate for law and order back in our country. And that's a mandate to prevent wars, not start wars, and give us an America we can be proud of. You know, everybody talks about the economy they had under Donald Trump and how it was better than Joe Biden's. And it was. But at what cost? He put us $8 trillion in debt in just 4 years. Our kids are never going to forgive him for that. And we're trying to dig out of it now. In 2018, while he was president, he wanted to raise the gas taxes by 25 cents per gallon. Now he's going and saying he wants to tax every American family up to $2,800 by putting tariffs on every good that comes into our country, from strollers to appliances. Then he wants to go cut Social Security after 10 years because he refuses to do anything about it. America has to be a country where we keep our promises. You need to know your Social Security is going to be protected. So all of us know, basically, we've got some work to do. Wouldn't it be nice if we stopped the wasteful spending that's happening by Republicans and Democrats right now? I promise you we will stop the borrowing, stop the spending, eliminate their pet projects, and I'll veto any spending bill that doesn't take us back to pre-COVID levels. That will save us trillions. We will take as many federal programs as we can and we'll send it down to the state level. That way we reduce the size of the federal government and empower people on the ground. Think education, think welfare, think healthcare, think mental health. If we did that, it would help the people more on the ground than those in D.C. Then we want to go and cut taxes on the middle class. Make sure we eliminate the federal gas and diesel tax in this country and make small business tax cuts permanent, period. Small businesses are the heartbeat of our economy. We need to start acting like it. Think about these businesses up and down the street. Then let's look at the border. The border, what's happening is horrific. 8.5 million illegal immigrants have come to the border. We had more fentanyl come to the border last year that would kill every single American. Number one cause of death for adults 18 to 45, fentanyl. And don't think for a second China doesn't know what they're doing when they send it over. We passed the toughest illegal immigration law in the country when I was governor. President Obama sued us over it and we won. We will take what we did in South Carolina and we'll go national with it. We will do a national E-Verify program and require every business to prove that the people they hire are in this country legally. We will defund sanctuary cities once and for all. No more safe havens. We'll put 25,000 Border Patrol and ICE agents on the ground and let them do their job. We will go back to the Remain in Mexico policy so that no one even steps foot on U.S. soil. And instead of catch and release, we'll go to catch and deport. That's how we will stop what's happening on the border. We'll go back to the basics in education. We'll do transparency. We'll make sure we go back to vocational classes in high schools, and we will make sure that our kids start reading again. And we are once and for all going to thank our veterans for the way they deserve to be treated. You know, 7 months ago, I dropped my husband Michael off at 4 a.m. for another year-long deployment. And I watched him and 230 soldiers pick up their 2 duffel bags of belongings to go to a country they've never been, all in the name of protecting America. They're willing to sacrifice their lives and their families because they still believe in this amazing experiment that is America. So if they're willing to sacrifice for us there, shouldn't we be willing to fight for America here? Because we have a country to save. But in order to do that, it's going to take a lot of courage. Courage from everybody here. Courage for me to run. And courage for every one of you to know, don't complain about what happens in a general election if you don't play in this primary. It matters. As you leave here, it's not just about you voting. It's about your neighbors voting. It's about your family voting. It's about your friends voting. There are a lot of people who just vote in general elections. In a general election, you're given a choice. In a primary, you make your choice. We need to make our choice. We need to make our voices heard. You go and you look now, Joe Biden had it 2 days ago. The special counsel said that his memory was diminished, that his capacity is diminished. And he goes up and he does a press conference and he's angry and once again talking about himself. It wasn't that long ago, maybe a week ago, 2 weeks ago, that Donald Trump was going off for a good while, mentioning my name over and over and over again, saying, I don't know why Nikki Haley didn't have security go to the Capitol on January 6th. I've never had a job in D.C. I've never been in charge of security at the Capitol. Now we know he was confused between me and Nancy Pelosi. But think about it. When you go to vote in the primary, this is serious business. You go to vote in the primary, and everybody you know that goes to vote, they've got a choice to make. 70% of Americans have said they don't want a Trump-Biden rematch. The majority of Americans disapprove of Joe Biden, and a majority of Americans disapprove of Donald Trump. And are we really going to allow ourselves the choice between 2 80-year-old candidates? We need somebody that can put in 8 years, that can clean up D.C., that can stop the wasteful spending, that can secure our borders, that can get our kids reading again, and that can prevent wars so that we can start to feel proud again. We've got to do that. And no more chaos. We've had enough chaos with Donald Trump. We've had enough. You have these cases now, and they're saying, well, Biden, he doesn't know any better. You can't hold him accountable for having these national security papers that he wasn't supposed to have. And now Donald Trump's like, well, if you did it for him, you got to do it for me. Bottom line, what bothers me about that? Both those men knew better. I worked at the United Nations. We knew that secure documentation, it is stamped all over it. You are not even allowed to have it sit on a desk. It's that protected. And these guys not only take it home, they brag about it. What's happening? That's sheer arrogance of Joe Biden and Donald Trump to think that they can put our security in danger just so that they can have a bragging point. That's where we've been. I think we've done enough with the fellas. I appreciate all you fellas that showed up today. But don't you think it's finally time we had that a woman in the White House?
Let's do it!
No drama, no vendettas, not taking things personally, just getting to work. That's what we need, and we can do that. So this is what I'll ask of you. I need you to leave here with the yard sign. Tell everybody you know that we get to start voting early on Monday. Take them to the polls. The way we win is if there's more of our people that show up than his people. We know how to do this. We've done it before. If you go tell 10 people, tell them to go to NikkiHaley.com. Tell them to volunteer. Tell them to get a yard sign. Tell them to go vote early. All the precincts and locations are on there. But just imagine if we lived in a country where you no longer worked for government, but government served you. Just imagine if we lived in a country of law and order again, where we felt safe. Just imagine if we lived in a country where there wasn't so much anger and division. Just imagine if we lived in a country that stopped looking at each other as a label, whether it's a party label or a gender label or a race label or anything label, and we just saw each other as Americans. Just imagine what that would mean for our kids. Because look at our kids right now. They don't know how they're going to pay that debt. They don't know where they're going to get a job. They don't know how they're going to buy a home. It's them we need to be thinking about. You know, when I announced, someone asked me why I was doing this. And I said, my parents came here 50 years ago to an America that was strong and proud and full of opportunities. I want them to know that country again. I'm doing this for my husband, Michael, and his military brothers and sisters. They need to know their sacrifice matters. They need to know that we love our country. I'm doing this for my daughter, who's here today somewhere, Rena, and her husband. They just got married, and I saw how hard it was for them to buy a home. The average home buyer in America now is 49 years old. The American dream is leaving them. And I'm doing this for my son, who's also here today. There he is. Because he's a senior in college, and I'm tired of watching him write papers of things he doesn't believe in just to get an A. That's not us. That's not America. And for the first time, 81% of Americans don't think their kids are going to have as good of a life as we did. We can't be okay with that. I'm not okay with that. We have a country to save. But I'll promise you this, like I did twice before, if you will get involved and join this movement and tell your friends and get them to the polls, I will spend every single day proving to you that you made a good decision. God bless you. Thank you.